from the Radio What Studios, and this is my podcast, What Makes You Smarter. It's an extension of the RadioWhat.com internet radio station that I've been running for quite some time. And if you need DJ services, where do you go? DJLittleRock.com. One more time, DJLittleRock.com. Check availability and get a free price quote. And maybe you could have me at your next event. You know I like to party with the people. The people need to be entertained. Let me entertain you. Hey, this week's shows, let's see, as I'm recording this on Friday, I will be at the RAB tonight. That's right, Friday night, my regular Friday night gig. I'm there most Friday nights out of the year, at least 48 Friday nights out of the year I'll be there. I mean, if not 49. I think I probably take 2, maybe 3 Fridays off in a year. But that's the place to be on a Friday night, hanging out with me, yours truly, yes, and all your friends at the RAB in Conway, Arkansas. It's the Video Dance Party Karaoke Jam. Did he say karaoke? Yeah, I said karaoke. You're the stars of the show. If you sing in the shower, if you sing in the car, you could sing on stage right there at the RAB, Conway, Arkansas. Be there. Full bar, kitchens open, pool tables. They have a pool tournament on Friday nights. So if you want to make some money or try to make some money on a Friday night, I encourage you to check out the pool tournament. There's always something to do while you're waiting to sing right next to me on stage. Now, during this time of COVID-19, coronavirus, all that kind of stuff, we are asking you wear a mask on the way in. And when you interact with people, pretty much while you're standing up, wear a mask. When you're sitting down, having your drinks and having some food, you could take the mask down. And yes, while you're singing, you could take the mask off. And I'll wipe the microphones down between each use. How about that? Yeah. Just trying to take care of each other. Don't know what this coronavirus is. There's so much information out there. Who knows? Is it good for you? Is it bad for you? Is it as bad as they say it is? I don't know. I just don't know. I mean, there's 10% mortality rate. There's the the range is from 10% mortality rate to 0.006% mortality rate. Is it bad? Is it that bad? I know it's killing people, but is it killing that many people by itself? I don't know. All right. I'm just trying to get smarter. I'm just trying to get smarter, people. And maybe you could take the journey along with me. Also, if you'd like to tell your story or hear the stories of others, I encourage you to check out my other podcast, What Makes You Famous. Find it everywhere using the hashtag What Makes You Famous. Oh, yeah, KeysDAN Gaming, hashtag KeysDAN Gaming. I've been playing video games too. Now, on with the show. Today on the program, 10 things you need to know today for Friday, September 4th, 2020. 10 things you need to know today. Number 1, officers kill man suspected in fatal Portland shooting. Law enforcement officers on Thursday fatally shot self-described Antifa supporter Michael Forrest Reinhold, the suspect in the fatal weekend shooting of Aaron Danielson, one of the Trump supporters who clashed with anti-racism protesters in Portland. Officers were trying to take Reinhold, a 48, into custody in Lacey, Washington. He reportedly ran when officers fired shots, pulling a gun and firing back. Portland police had issued an arrest warrant for Reinhold earlier in the day. Reinhold appeared to confess to the shooting in an interview with the Vice News published Thursday. The self-described Antifa supporter told Vice that he shot Danielson in self-defense, thinking he and a, quote, friend of color, end quote, were about to be stabbed. Quote, I had no choice, end quote, he said. This is according to the Oregonian and the New York Times. Number 2, Biden visits with Jacob Blake's family in Kenosha. Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden visited Kenosha, Wisconsin on Thursday, where he met with the family of Jacob Blake, the unarmed black man who was shot by police and left partially paralyzed. Biden told the family, quote, we need to value all our differences as we come together in America's great melting pot, end quote, the family's lawyer, Ben Crump, said. Biden addressed the civil unrest that broke out after the shooting, promising a police reform commission and saying President Trump has been, quote, legitimizing a dark side of human nature, end quote, instead of addressing the, quote, underlying racism, end quote, that divides the country. Trump campaign spokesman Tim Murtaugh criticized Biden for failing to offer, quote, any denunciation of Antifa or any other left-wing agitators who have rioted in American cities, end quote. This is according to The Hill and the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. Number 3, 7 Rochester police officers suspended after video shows hooded black man who died. Rochester, New York, Mayor Lovely Warren on Thursday suspended 7 police officers over the suffocation death of a naked, handcuffed black man, Daniel Prude. Body camera video showed Prude with a white, quote, spit hood, end quote, over his head, placed there to protect officers from bodily fluids. Prude, who had traveled from Chicago to visit his brother, died several days later in a hospital. Prude's family on Wednesday released the March body camera video footage, which showed one officer with his hands on Prude's head and another with a knee on Prude's back. Quote, you're trying to kill me, end quote, he cried, pinned to the ground. Prude was mentally ill. His brother Joe Prude said he called police that night, quote, to get help, not for my brother to get lynched, end quote. This is according to the Washington Post and the Associated Press. Number 4, Twitter, Facebook flagged Trump's call for people to vote by mail and in person. Twitter and Facebook on Thursday flagged morning tweets by President Trump repeating his call for Americans to vote twice, by mail and in person, to test anti-fraud measures in their state's election systems. Twitter said the remarks, quote, violated the Twitter rules about civic election integrity, end quote. Facebook said it would not let people share a video of Trump making the remarks a day earlier in North Carolina, saying the call for illegally voting twice, quote, violates our policies prohibiting voter fraud, end quote. White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany said in a Thursday briefing that Trump, quote, does not condone unlawful voting, end quote. Another White House spokesman said the media was taking Trump's remarks out of context and that he was not actually urging people to vote twice when he said they should vote by mail, then go vote in person to see whether poll workers would let them. This is according to NPR and the Washington Post. Number 5, DOJ reportedly poised to launch antitrust case against Google. The Justice Department plans to launch an antitrust case against Google parent Alphabet within weeks, the New York Times reported Thursday, citing 5 people briefed on internal DOJ discussions. Most of the roughly 40 career lawyers working on the complaint reportedly said they needed more time to put together a strong case against such a powerful technology company, but Attorney General William Barr decided on filing it quickly, telling the lawyers to wrap up their preparations by late September. Barr, a former telecom industry executive, has requested frequent updates and shown intense interest in the department's investigation of Google, one of several tech giants that President Trump has accused of bias against him. This is according to the New York Times. Number 6, Trump denies reports he referred to fallen soldiers as losers. President Trump has privately said on several occasions that U.S. military personnel captured or killed in battle are, quote, losers and, quote, suckers. The Atlantic's Jeffrey Goldberg reported Thursday, citing several people with firsthand knowledge of Trump's comments. Trump called the reports corroborated by the Associated Press and the Washington Post, quote, totally false, end quote. In one anecdote confirmed by at least 5 people, Trump begged out of a trip to pay respects to U.S. World War I dead at Aisne Marne American Cemetery outside Paris because, quote, it's filled with losers, end quote, and, quote, suckers, end quote. On a 2017 Memorial Day visit to Arlington National Cemetery with John Kelly, then Homeland Security Secretary, Trump reportedly turned to Kelly at the grave of his son, Lieutenant Robert Kelly, and said, quote, I don't get it. What was in it for them, end quote. Trump also reportedly called the late Senator John McCain a, quote, effing loser, end quote. This is according to The Atlantic and the Associated Press. Number 7, Biden picks up endorsements from nearly 100 Republicans and independents. Nearly 100 Republicans and independent leaders, including former 2020 GOP presidential hopeful Bill Weld, endorsed Democratic Joe Biden for president on Thursday. Republican former governors of Michigan and New Jersey, Rick Snyder and Christine Todd Whitman, are also among GOP leaders rejecting President Trump, who is running for a second term. Quote, Biden is a decent man. He's a steady man, end quote, said Whitman, who is heading the group. Quote, Republicans and independents for Biden, end quote. Quote, Trump is trying to paint the world of Joe Biden as horrific, but that's Trump's America now, end quote. She said Trump had betrayed conservative values. Snyder described Trump as a, quote, bully, end quote, and said Biden would, quote, bring back civility, end quote. The latest endorsements boosted an effort by the Biden campaign to highlight the former vice president's bipartisan support. This is according to The Hill and Reuters. Number 8, 881,000 filed new jobless claims last week, lowest since March. About 881,000 Americans filed new applications for jobless benefits last week, fewer than any other week since the coronavirus crisis hit the United States in March, the Labor Department reported Thursday. Economists had forecast 950,000 new claims. The figure was down from 1.2 million the previous week, although the drop was largely due to a change in how the government makes seasonal adjustments to employment figures. Economists surveyed by Reuters expected the August jobs report being released Friday to show that U.S. employers added 1.4 million jobs last month, with some gains stemming from hiring for the 2020 census. Employment would remain about 11.5 million below its level before the start of the coronavirus crisis. Many of the new hires have been people returning from furloughs. This is according to CNBC and Reuters. Number 9, Facebook to refuse new political ads in week before election. Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg on Thursday announced that the social network will reject new political ads in the week before the November presidential election. Zuckerberg said the policy change was among several the company would implement ahead of the vote. The changes will include placing labels on posts from candidates prematurely declaring victory, removing posts claiming that people will contract COVID-19 if they vote, and informing users that there will be, quote, nothing illegitimate, end quote, if a result is not clear on election night because of an increased number of mail-in ballots being cast due to the pandemic. Zuckerberg said Facebook would take these steps to, quote, reduce the chances of violence and unrest, end quote, across the country. This is according to the New York Times and Facebook. Number 10, California faces heat wave, complicating fight against wildfires. California is bracing for another blast of extreme heat starting Friday that could make work harder for firefighters after they made progress towards containing the second and third largest wildfires in the state's history. Much of California, Arizona, and Nevada are under extreme heat watches and warnings expected to last through Sunday. The National Weather Service office in Los Angeles warned that the conditions could cause deadly heat illness and increase the likelihood of large wildfires. Temperatures are forecast to come near or exceed the hottest ever recorded for these dates, with widespread highs of up to 115 degrees. Quote, these extreme maximum temps combined with lows in the mid 70s to lower 80s will make Sunday one of the most hazardous in recent memory, end quote, the Weather Service said. This is according to the Washington Post. That's 10 things you need to know today for Friday, September 4th, 2020. Thank you so much for listening as we're heading into a long 3-day weekend for lots of people. I hope you enjoy your weekend. Hey, and if you're in the area, join me tonight at the Rab in Conway, Arkansas. Why not? Sing a song. Yeah, do it. I mean, it's a nice big room. We're limiting capacity. Everybody's wearing masks. We're sanitizing, constantly. So, yeah, come on out. Play with us. You've been working hard all week. What better way to spend your time than with your friends at the Rab? This has been What Makes You Smarter. I'm trying to learn some stuff. Keep up with current events, and I try to learn from other people. Speaking of, if you'd like to tell your story or hear the stories of others, I encourage you to check out my other podcast, What Makes You Famous. Find it everywhere using the hashtag What Makes You Famous. Speaking of hashtags, look up hashtag KeysDAN Gaming, and you'll find me mostly failing miserably playing video games, streaming online. Hey, give me some pointers if you know how to play these video games. I played them back in the 80s. Yeah, that's the 1980s. The 1900s, kids. I was playing way back then. Atari 2600, mostly. I wasted whole Saturdays. And now I'm spending a lot of time online streaming video games. KeysDAN Gaming. Hashtag KeysDAN Gaming. That's it for me. It's KeysDAN, RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com. Peace.